No one helped the Korean Mafia boss until the waitress greeted him in Korean. The old man shivering in the doorway of New York's most exclusive restaurant, Aurelia, looked like he had lost everything. His coat was torn, a relic from a forgotten decade. His boots were caked in mud, and the staff eyed him as if he were a contagion. They laughed, they pointed, and they told him to get lost. They didn't know that the man standing in the rain wasn't a beggar. He was Mr. Kwon, the ruthless and powerful Korean mafia boss, head of the city's most formidable syndicate. He was testing them. Only one person, a struggling 22-year-old African waitress named Amara, saw a human being instead of a nuisance. When she offered him a gentle smile, she didn't just earn a tip. She started a war that would scorch the city. This is the story of how one act of kindness saved a life and ended a dozen others. The rain in Manhattan that Tuesday wasn't just rain, it was a punishment, lashing against the floor-to-ceiling glass windows of Aurelia, the kind of restaurant where a bottle of water cost more than most people's hourly wage. Inside, the air smelled of truffle oil, expensive perfume, and old money. Outside, the city was drowning. Amara adjusted her apron, a simple white dress and red vest, wincing as she tightened the strings. Her lower back throbbed. She had been on her feet for 10 hours straight, covering a double shift because the hostess had called in sick again. Amara didn't have that luxury. She had rent due, a maxed-out credit card, and a grandmother in a nursing home whose medication costs were rising faster than her tips. Table 4 needs a refill on the Pinot. A voice snapped behind her. Amara jumped, turning to see Gregory, the floor manager. Gregory was a man who wore suits that were too tight and a cologne that was too strong, managing the restaurant with a sneer. "I'm on it, Gregory," Amara said, forcing a smile. "And fix your hair. You look like you walked here in a wind tunnel." "This is Aurelia, not a diner," Gregory hissed before spinning on his heel to greet a senator. Amara swallowed her pride, hurried to the bar, and made her rounds. The restaurant was buzzing, oblivious to the storm. Then the heavy oak front door creaked open. A gust of wind blew rain into the pristine foyer. Silence rippled through the dining room. Standing there was a man who looked like he had crawled out of a gutter. He was around 45 years old, hunched over in a heavy, waterlogged trench coat. His dark hair was plastered to his skull, and he was trembling violently. The hostess froze, panic flashing in her eyes. "Sir," she squeaked. "Sir, you can't be here." The old man looked up. His eyes were dark, scanning the area with a strange predatory intensity that didn't match his frail appearance. I only wish for a table," the man said, his voice raspy. "Just soup, please. It is cold." Gregory descended upon the scene like a vulture. "Excuse me," his voice boomed. "This is a private establishment. We have a dress code, and we certainly don't serve vagrants." "I have money," the man said, reaching a shaking hand into his pocket. "I don't care if you have a winning lottery ticket," Gregory sneered, snapping his fingers for a busboy. "Escort this gentleman out before he drips mud on the Persian rug." The diners watched with amusement. "Can you believe the nerve?" a woman in pearls whispered loudly. Amara watched from the service station, her heart hammering. It was cruel. She looked at the man's hands, turning blue from the cold. He wasn't drunk, he was freezing. "Please," the old man tried one last time. "Just 10 minutes to warm up." "Out!" Gregory pointed to the street. The busboy moved to grab his arm, and the old man flinched, his eyes hardening for a split second before he bowed his head in defeat. Amara couldn't breathe. She thought of her grandfather, a proud man who had worked his entire life. If someone had treated him like this, it would have broken him. Ignoring her debt, ignoring the rent, ignoring the fact that Gregory had threatened to fire her last week, Amara slammed the water pitcher down on the counter. "Stop." The restaurant went silent again. Gregory turned slowly, his face turning purple. "Excuse me, Amara?" She walked forward, her legs shaking but her chin high. She gently placed a hand on the old man's soaked shoulder. "He's staying," Amara said, her voice firm. "He's sitting at my station. Table 9 is open." It's in the back corner. I am not letting an old man freeze to death on the sidewalk. If you seat him, Gregory hissed, leaning into her ear, you are finished here. You walk out that door with him. Amara looked at the old man. He was looking at her now, truly looking. His eyes were the color of espresso, deep and unreadable. He wasn't looking at her like a savior. He was analyzing her, assessing her worth. Then I'm finished, Amara said quietly. She turned to the old man and smiled, a genuine, warm smile. Come with me. Ignore him. Let's get you some hot soup. Gregory was too shocked by the public insubordination to cause a scene. He would let her serve the bomb, then fire her publicly at the end of the shift. On your head be it, he muttered. Amara guided the old man to the secluded booth in the back. She helped him off with his soaked coat. Underneath, he wore a black Mafia suit, frayed at the cuffs but surprisingly well-tailored, with a white collared shirt. Sit, she said softly. I'll bring you a warm towel. As soon as she was gone, the man's demeanor shifted. The trembling ceased. He reached into his inner pocket, not for a wallet, but for a small burner phone. No signal. He scanned the room, noting the exits, the staff, the security cameras. This was a man looking for a way out of a trap. Mr. Kwon, the formidable Korean Mafia boss, had been ambushed 3 blocks away. His driver was dead, his bodyguards scattered. The Dalton crew had finally made their move. He had ditched his primary phone and his gun to blend in, playing the role of a vagrant. He needed shelter, and he needed to know if this girl was simply an idiot or an angel. Amara returned with a steaming towel and a bowl of lobster bisque. She hadn't wrung it into the system. If she was getting fired, she was going to steal the soup. She placed the towel in his hands. He took it, pressing the warmth against his face. When he lowered it, he looked less like a drowned rat and more like a tired hawk.
Thank you, he said.
It's horrible out there, Amara said, pouring him water. My grandmother always says you never turn away someone who knocks on your door. She taught me that a guest is a gift, that you treat everyone with dignity, no matter what they look like. Mr. Kwon froze, his eyes narrowing. He stared at her, his facade of the helpless beggar cracking completely. Her simple words, spoken with such earnest belief, struck a chord deep within him. In his world of high-stakes crime and brutal betrayal, such pure, unconditional decency was a foreign concept. He looked at this young African waitress, whose own life was clearly a struggle, and saw a strength he hadn't encountered in years. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice now steady and commanding. "Amara," she replied. "You possess an uncommon heart, Amara," he murmured, tasting the soup. "I'm just doing my job," she said, glancing at Gregory, who was glaring from across the room. "Look, eat quickly. My manager is a difficult man." Mr. Kwon looked over Amara's shoulder at Gregory, memorizing his face. He filed it away in the mental cabinet reserved for people who needed to be corrected. "He is a small man with a small amount of power," Mr. Kwon said. "Those are the most dangerous kind." "He's going to fire me," Amara admitted, her shoulders slumping. "But it's okay. I hate this place anyway." Suddenly, the front door burst open again. 2 men in long black trench coats strode in. They looked like sharks in a goldfish pond. One had a scar running down his cheek. The other kept his right hand buried deep inside his jacket. They ignored the hostess and began scanning the room. Mr. Kwon stiffened. He stared into his soup, his hand slowly moving beneath the table, gripping a steak knife. "Amara," he whispered, his voice like steel. "Listen to me. Do not look at them. Do not react."
"What?"
"Who?" "The men who just entered. They are looking for me." Amara's heart stopped. She looked at the old man, then at the 2 terrifying figures stalking through the dining room. "The police?" "No," Mr. Kwon said, a dark smirk on his lips. "Much worse." Gregory, seeing the men, marched up to them. The man with the scar grabbed him by the throat and shoved him against a wall. "We are looking for an old man," the scarred man growled. "Graying hair, trench coat, looks like a beggar. Seen him?" The restaurant went deathly silent. Brad, gasping for air, was paralyzed with fear. Amara stood frozen. She looked down at Mr. Kwan, who gripped the steak knife. "If you tell them I am here," he whispered, "they will likely reward you. They will kill me, and you will be rich." It was the ultimate test. The killer dropped Gregory and shouted to the room. I said, "Has anyone seen an old man?" His partner pulled a suppressed pistol. Diners screamed and ducked. "Anyone who speaks up gets to live." Amara looked at the terrified diners. She looked at Gregory, who was wheezing on the floor. His eyes darted toward the back corner. He opened his mouth, ready to rat them out. Amara made a split-second decision. She grabbed the pitcher of ice water, stepped out from the booth, and shouted, "Hey!" The two gunmen turned, the pistol pointed straight at her chest. "He was here," Amara lied, pointing toward the kitchen doors. "He ran through the kitchen, out the back alley. He stole some bread and ran." The gunman stared. "Are you sure?" "I saw him," Amara screamed, adding a touch of panic to her voice. "He pushed me. Please don't shoot." Gregory, still on the floor, tried to speak, but Amara accidentally kicked him in the ribs as she stumbled back, silencing him. The gunmen didn't wait. They sprinted toward the kitchen, chasing a ghost. Amara stood shaking. She turned back to the booth. Mr. Kwan was standing now, tall and imposing. He was no longer a hunched-over beggar. He placed the steak knife on the table. He looked at Amara with an expression of pure awe. "You lied for me," he said softly. "You risked a bullet for a stranger." "You're not a stranger," Amara whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "You're a guest." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, heavy gold ring with a black onyx stone, engraved with the snarling face of a Korean tiger. He pressed it into her palm.
"Keep this."
"Hide it. Do not show it to anyone yet." "What is it?" "Insurance," Mr. Kwan said. "I must go. Those men will be back in 2 minutes. They will come for you. Do not go home tonight. Go to the St. Regis Hotel. Ask for Mr. Alistair. Show him the ring. Do not leave until I come for you." "Who are you?" Amara asked, gripping the ring. Mr. Kwan buttoned his tattered coat, looking like a king in rags. "I am the man who owes you a life," he said. "And Mr. Kwan always pays his debts." He moved toward a side exit, then looked back at Gregory, who was struggling to his feet. "And you," Mr. Kwan said, pointing a finger like a loaded weapon. "Pray. Because you just insulted the wrong man." He vanished into the rainy night. Amara stood alone in the chaos. Sirens wailed in the distance. Gregory got up, his face red with rage. "You," he snarled, wiping blood from his lip. "You lying witch. You're fired. And I'm telling the police you were an accomplice." The look in Gregory's eyes wasn't just anger. It was the frantic desperation of a man who owed money to bad people. He wasn't calling the police. Amara sprinted to the employee lockers, her hands shaking. She grabbed her purse and shoved the gold ring deep into her pocket. As she burst out, she heard Gregory's voice from his office. "Yes, Marco. Listen to me. The girl, the waitress, Amara.
She lied.
She sent your men the wrong way. Kwan was here."
Marco Dalton.
Even a waitress knew that name. The Dalton crew was the new blood in New York, violent and without honor. If Gregory was calling Marco Dalton, Amara wasn't just fired. She was marked for death. She ran for the service elevator, smashing the button. Just as it arrived, the scarred hitman stormed back into the kitchen, his gun now openly displayed. He looked at Gregory, who was pointing frantically toward the locker room. The elevator doors closed. Amara ran from the basement into the sheeting rain. She flagged down a taxi, ignoring the honking horns. "St. Regis Hotel," she gasped. "Go!" Looking back, she saw the two hitmen run out of the restaurant, Brad with them, pointing down the block. The taxi lurched forward into the sea of taillights. She pulled the ring from her pocket. Under the passing streetlights, she saw the engraved tiger. Inside the band was an inscription, "Fidelity before blood." Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Don't go to your apartment. They are already there. Trust the ring." At the St. Regis, a palace of limestone and gold, a doorman stepped in front of her. "Can I help you, miss?" Deliveries are around the back.